Hello friends. Have you ever wondered why an Aries can be your wildest partner in crime one minute, and your most stubborn headache the next? Let's unravel the mystery of Aries in friendship, not just in general, but how this fiery sign blends, clashes, and combusts with every single sign in the zodiac. Ready? Let's dive in. Aries plus Aries. What happens when fire meets fire? Explosions, obviously, but there's so much more smoldering beneath the sparks. When two Aries decide to be friends, the universe holds its breath. Imagine two human-sized lightning bolts colliding on purpose, again and again, just for the thrill of it. These two are not content to sit on a couch and gossip about life. They want to live it, in technicolor, at full speed, preferably with a touch of danger and a lot of noise. In the beginning, it's pure magic. An Aries meeting another Aries feels like finding a long-lost twin. Finally, someone who doesn't say, slow down. Someone who says, let's go faster. They feed each other's hunger for life. The spontaneous road trips at 2 a.m., the dare to jump in the freezing ocean, the reckless decision to turn a random Tuesday into a legendary story they'll be telling for years. There's never a dull moment when Aries teams up with Aries. Boredom is banished from the kingdom. But under this constant adrenaline rush lies a truth. Both want to steer the ship. Aries is the zodiac's warrior, the leader, the spark that lights every fire. Double that energy, and you've got two captains on one boat, both convinced their way is the only way. They'll argue over where to eat, which concert to crash, and who came up with that brilliant idea first. And when an Aries argues, they don't whisper. They shout, laugh, storm off, and make up just as dramatically. Oddly enough, these clashes are part of the fun. To outsiders, an Aries plus Aries fight looks like the end of the world. Plates might fly, doors might slam, phone calls might be ignored for days. But when the dust settles, there's no grudge. They thrive on conflict as much as on adventure. It keeps things honest. It clears the air so they can get back to planning their next conquest together. Their friendship works because they speak the same primal language, action. An Aries doesn't want to talk about plans endlessly, they want to do. When you put two doers in the same room, the result is powerful. They'll hype each other up to launch businesses, write books, switch careers, move across the country, all before lunch. If one loses steam, the other reignites it. Their energy feeds off each other like twin bonfires pushed together by the wind. This bond can be especially strong because they understand each other's flaws without judgment. They know what it's like to act first and think later. They know how it feels to get bored in relationships where people can't keep up. They forgive each other's sharp words, reckless spending, messy plans, and constant need for more. They laugh about it because they see themselves reflected in the other. Still, the biggest lesson for Aries plus Aries is sharing the spotlight. They'll have to learn to step aside sometimes, to let the other take the lead without resentment. That means biting back an impulsive, no, my idea's better, and replacing it with, okay, show me what you've got. It means learning that friendship is not a competition, even if their competitive spirits always lurk just below the surface. And there's a sweetness here, too. Underneath all that fire, Aries has a childlike heart. They're loyal to their friends in a fierce, unshakable way. Two Aries will defend each other against the world, side by side, even when they've just been fighting. They'll show up when it counts, in hospital waiting rooms, on moving day, when life hits hard. When one Aries falls, the other picks them up, dusts them off, and says, come on, we're not done yet. So yes, when fire meets fire, there are explosions. But there's also warmth, light, and the promise of endless new beginnings. If these two can master the art of compromise, even just a little, they'll have a friendship that burns hotter and longer than most people could ever handle. To them, life is a battlefield, an adventure, and a playground all at once, and they'd rather storm it together than go it alone. Aries plus Taurus. Picture a speeding car with its engine roaring, red paint gleaming, wheels spinning so fast they blur into the horizon. That's Aries. Now tie that car to a mighty ox, planted firmly in a green pasture, hooves dug deep into the soft earth. That's Taurus. On paper, it looks like a comedy sketch waiting to happen. Aries is all impulse, heat, and thrill. Taurus is all patience, calm, and an unshakable love for comfort. And yet, somehow, these two signs find a strange and beautiful middle ground when they become friends. At first glance, Aries will be baffled by Taurus's love for routine. Why would anyone want to do the same thing every weekend? Why spend Saturday night rewatching the same movie on the same couch with the same snacks when there's a whole world to conquer, a new club to discover, a new adventure to crash into headfirst? But for Taurus, that couch is their throne, their sanctuary, their favorite place to recharge after the chaos of the week. Aries storms into Taurus's world like a tornado through a farmhouse, a mess, but an exciting one. The secret behind this odd pairing is what each brings to the table. Aries wakes Taurus up. When Taurus gets stuck in a rut, staying at the same job for too long, eating at the same restaurant every Friday, Aries appears with a gleam in their eye and says, "What if we did something crazy?" Maybe it's a last-minute road trip, maybe it's karaoke at a shady bar on a Tuesday, maybe it's convincing Taurus to finally buy that plane ticket they've been putting off for 5 years. Aries pulls Taurus out of their comfort zone in a way no one else can. On the flip side, Taurus saves Aries from self-destruction. Everyone knows Aries loves to start things. They have an idea at breakfast, launch it by lunch, and forget about it by dinner because they're on to the next thrill. But Taurus, the steady, stubborn builder, gently reminds Aries that good things take time. They'll say, "Slow down. Let's finish this one before we start another." It's not that Aries listens every time, but when they do, they notice life feels less chaotic and more rewarding. Taurus also shows Aries the simple beauty of staying still. They teach them how to appreciate a lazy Sunday morning, a meal cooked slowly with care, a sunset watched without pulling out a phone to post it online. To Aries, this is infuriating at first. Who has time to sit still? But eventually, they learn the value of a pause, a breath, a moment of peace in a life that otherwise feels like a constant race. Of course, it's not all smooth. These two signs can clash spectacularly. Aries can be pushy. They want Taurus to move faster, talk faster, decide faster. Taurus, meanwhile, can dig their heels in deeper the more they feel pressured, which makes Aries push even harder. Cue the standoffs. The cancelled plans because Taurus refuses to budge, the eye rolls when Aries shows up unannounced with a wild idea Taurus never asked for. Patience is the word here. Patience from Aries to let Taurus process change, and patience from Taurus to let Aries have their spur-of-the-moment fun without constant resistance. Money can be a sore spot too. Aries loves to spend, big, bold gestures, expensive dinners, tickets to spontaneous concerts. Taurus likes nice things too, but they'd rather save up for something solid, lasting. A cozy home, a good mattress, a garden to tend. Aries might scoff at this boring practicality, but deep down, they envy Taurus's security. And Taurus might roll their eyes at Aries's reckless spending but secretly admires their fearless attitude toward risk. When it works, though, Aries and Taurus form a friendship built on unexpected trust. Taurus sees through Aries's brashness and understands that underneath the fire is someone who needs grounding. Aries, in turn, learns that Taurus's stubbornness is really quiet loyalty, an unspoken promise that once Taurus lets you into their inner circle, they're not going anywhere. And there's an underrated sweetness here, too. Taurus has a hidden playful side that Aries loves to coax out. Once Taurus feels safe, they'll laugh harder than anyone at Aries's bad jokes, dance awkwardly at Aries's favorite club, and join in on those random late-night adventures, just not every night, please. And Aries, for all their bravado, finds a comforting safe haven in Taurus's calm presence. When the world feels too loud, Taurus is the friend who hands Aries a cup of tea, a blanket, and says, "Stay a while." If these two signs can respect each other's rhythm, Aries learning that not everyone runs at their speed, Taurus learning that sometimes it's okay to leap without a plan, they'll discover a friendship that's both thrilling and steady. They balance each other in a way that makes them stronger than they'd ever be alone. So, while the car may always try to drag the ox down the road, sometimes it's the ox that keeps the car from flying off a cliff. And that's exactly why Aries and Taurus work. Aries plus Gemini. Now here's a match made in chaos heaven. When Aries and Gemini link up, it's like throwing a spark into a room full of balloons. It's loud, unpredictable, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Imagine two kids in a classroom who can't stop whispering, passing notes with doodles, and giggling when the teacher turns around. That's this pair, no matter how old they get. Rules? They bend them. Boundaries? They push them. Together, they're a walking invitation to spontaneity, and sometimes a little harmless trouble. Aries is the one with the firecracker energy, always first to say, "Let's do it." Gemini is the trickster with a brain buzzing full of ideas no one else would dare think up. On their own, Aries can sometimes charge into the same wall over and over, all action, no plan. Gemini, meanwhile, can get lost in a million ideas but never settle on one. But together, Aries gives Gemini's clever schemes a launch button, while Gemini gives Aries's wild energy a playful, witty twist. One week, they'll decide to launch a podcast, talking over each other so much that editing it becomes a full-time job. The next week, they're halfway across the state on a spontaneous road trip, fueled by gas station snacks, chaotic playlists, and the kind of conversation that jumps from celebrity gossip to conspiracy theories to what they'll do next summer, all in a single breath. There's never a dull moment here. Neither sign is built for routine or rules. Both crave that delicious rush of new places, new people, new hobbies. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's not boring. Aries will drag Gemini to a pop-up rave on a Wednesday night. Gemini will convince Aries to crash a stranger's rooftop party just because, why not? If you see them together, you'll probably see them laughing so hard they can't breathe, the kind of inside jokes only they understand. But for all their shared chaos, they do have to watch out for one tiny problem: consistency. Neither Aries nor Gemini is famous for sticking with things once the novelty fades. One minute they're inseparable, planning 3 trips at once, the next they ghost each other for weeks because life got distracting and something shinier came along. Deep talks about feelings? Not their strong suit, at least not naturally. Aries is direct, but emotional vulnerability isn't their favorite place to hang out. Gemini can talk about anything except what's really on their heart when it feels too heavy. So if this friendship is going to last, they'll need to learn how to pause the party once in a while. To check in, to sit still long enough to ask, "Hey, how are you, really?" This isn't easy for either of them, but if they can manage it, they build a bond that's deeper than the wild nights and impulsive plans. The beauty here is that Aries never bores Gemini, Gemini never dulls Aries. Aries loves that Gemini can match their lightning-fast thoughts and keep the banter going for hours. Gemini loves that Aries isn't afraid to do all the ridiculous things Gemini only daydreams about. Together they're the ultimate partners in crime, the friends who encourage each other's weirdness instead of taming it. When trouble comes, and it will, because chaos follows them like a shadow, they're surprisingly resilient. If they fight, it's usually loud and then forgotten. Neither has the patience for long grudges. Aries blurts out whatever they feel in the moment, Gemini spins it into a joke, and 5 minutes later they're buying each other fries and moving on. One underrated perk of this pair is that they keep each other young. Even if life piles on adult responsibilities, jobs, kids, mortgages, put Aries and Gemini in a room together and watch them instantly regress into teenagers with terrible ideas and unstoppable laughter. It's a break from the heaviness of everyday life, and both signs secretly cherish it more than they admit. So yes, commitment might not be their strong suit, but excitement? Spontaneity? Shared laughter until sunrise? They've got that in spades. And if they learn to slow down just enough to listen, to stick around when things get real instead of when they get boring, this friendship is the stuff legendary stories are made of. Stories they'll retell to each other for years, always with new details, new jokes, and that same spark of "remember when" that never goes out. Aries plus Cancer. This duo is like fire and water, and yes, steam happens. When Aries and Cancer come together in friendship, the air sizzles with contradictions that somehow, against all odds, can blend into something warm, protective, and surprisingly strong. Aries shows up first, loud, bold, and ready to knock down any door standing between them and adventure. Cancer is softer, more cautious, preferring the warm light of home over the blinding spotlight of risk. At first glance, they seem like they should repel each other, but there's something magnetic here that neither fully understands at first. Aries barrels through life headfirst, a human battering ram powered by confidence and impulse. They speak without filters, leap without looking, and wear their independence like a suit of armor. Cancer, on the other hand, moves through the world by feel. They read the room, they sense the unspoken, they protect their heart with layers of care, and they offer that same care to anyone they love. In a friendship, this means Aries is the spark and Cancer is the hearth. One ignites action, the other keeps the warmth alive when the flames burn too hot. When they first meet, Aries may see Cancer as too soft, too clingy, too easily hurt. To Aries, feelings can feel like an obstacle. Why dwell on emotions when there's so much to do? Cancer, meanwhile, can see Aries as reckless, thoughtless, and sometimes intimidating. Aries' sharp tongue can wound Cancer's tender spots before Aries even realizes what they've done. But if they don't give up on each other too soon, they'll discover that what annoys them at first can become the glue that holds them together. Cancer has a secret superpower: patience. They're willing to understand people, to see past the armor, to catch the soft parts hidden underneath. They'll be the first to notice when Aries' bravado cracks, when the fearless leader secretly feels lost or hurt. Cancer doesn't push, they wait. They offer a listening ear, a comforting meal, a safe place to land when the world gets too loud. And though Aries might resist it at first, they grow to treasure this emotional shelter they never knew they needed. In return, Aries does what Aries does best. They push Cancer out of their shell. Cancer can stay stuck in the safety of what they know, the same routines, the same trusted circle, the same four walls. Aries storms in with plans, spontaneity, and zero patience for excuses. They say, "Get dressed, we're going out," and before Cancer can overthink, they're dancing at midnight, hiking at dawn, or signing up for an art class they'd never take alone. Aries shows Cancer that life can be a little reckless and still be okay. Of course, this push and pull can lead to tension. Aries might roll their eyes when Cancer cancels plans to stay home. Cancer might retreat into their shell when Aries blurts out something harsh in the heat of the moment. But when they trust each other enough to talk it out, they learn. Aries learns to soften their words, to pause before speaking daggers, to remember that not every battle needs to be fought with fire. Cancer learns that sometimes, they have to stand their ground, say what they need, and not just absorb the blow. There's real beauty in this balance. Aries teaches Cancer how to fight for themselves. Cancer teaches Aries how to listen to their heart. Aries brings adventure to Cancer's life, spontaneous trips, new friendships, wild stories that make Cancer feel alive. Cancer brings Aries a safe harbor, a friend who will always answer the phone, always keep their secrets, always remind them that even warriors need rest. Together, they create steam, a warmth that fills a room, a friendship that's more than the sum of its parts. They might bicker when Aries tries to rush Cancer into decisions. They might clash when Cancer wants to talk feelings at 2 a.m. and Aries just wants to sleep. But if they respect each other's rhythms, the fast and the slow, the bold and the careful, they'll find they have something rare. A bond that fuels them both in different ways. People often underestimate this duo. They see the clash of fire and water and assume it can't work. But steam powers engines. Steam moves mountains. Aries and Cancer can build a friendship that's both exciting and nurturing, fiery and forgiving. When Aries needs someone to patch up their battle wounds, Cancer is there with tea and bandages. When Cancer needs someone to remind them they're stronger than they think, Aries is ready with a pep talk and a push forward. In the end, the secret is simple but not always easy: mutual respect. Aries has to respect Cancer's need to feel. Cancer has to respect Aries' need to move. If they do, they'll find themselves wondering how they ever lived without this beautifully mismatched partner in crime, the brave warrior and the gentle healer, balancing each other in a friendship that defies the rules of nature and thrives because of it. Aries plus Leo. Lions and rams, Who would dare get in their way? When Aries and Leo come together, it's like two bonfires merging into one unstoppable blaze. They're both fire signs, which means this friendship is big, bright, and impossible to ignore. If there's noise in the room, they're probably at the center of it. If there's an adventure brewing, they're the ones planning it, or more likely, just doing it without waiting for permission. Aries brings raw, fearless energy. Leo adds a regal flair and a touch of theatrical drama. Together, they're a headline waiting to happen. The first thing you notice when these two become friends is how loud they are, not always in decibels, but in presence. They walk into a party and people turn to look. Aries will crack the first joke, drag Leo into the middle of the dance floor, and dare them to do something outrageous. Leo, never one to shrink from an audience, rises to the challenge with a grin that says, "Watch me." They hype each other up in ways few other signs can. Where some friends might say, "Calm down," Aries and Leo say, "Go bigger." This bond is built on a shared hunger for life. Both signs want to be seen, heard, admired, not out of insecurity, but because they genuinely love the thrill of being noticed. Aries is the fearless pioneer, Leo is the charismatic performer. Aries says, "Let's climb that mountain." Leo says, "Let's film it and throw a party when we get back." They're the type to come up with wild business ideas over late-night drinks, and actually do them, just to prove they can. Of course, all that fire means there's plenty of heat, sometimes too much. The same traits that make them magnetic can also ignite spectacular clashes. They're both natural leaders, which means they'll butt heads when they both want the final say. Who picks the restaurant? Who tells the story at the party? Who gets credit for that legendary prank? Their egos are healthy, and huge, and neither likes to feel overshadowed, even by someone they adore. When an argument sparks, it can turn dramatic fast. Aries might snap with cutting honesty. Leo might roar back with prideful fury. But here's the saving grace. Neither sign likes to stay mad for long. They'll stomp around, throw some shade, maybe exchange some spicy words, but they rarely hold grudges. They both know life's too fun to waste on sulking. One big laugh, one shared adventure, and the firestorm turns back into warmth. What keeps this friendship alive is mutual admiration. Deep down, Aries looks up to Leo's confidence and larger-than-life charm. Leo, in turn, secretly loves Aries' raw courage and willingness to fight for what they want. They might never admit it, but they draw inspiration from each other. Aries reminds Leo that sometimes it's okay to act without waiting for applause. Leo reminds Aries that sometimes, adding a little style to brute force makes the win even sweeter. When they're at their best, they're unstoppable cheerleaders for each other's dreams. If Aries wants to launch a startup, Leo is the first to say, "You're a star, let's do it." If Leo wants to headline a show or throw a wild-themed party, Aries is there to hype them up, gather the crowd, and make sure everyone shows up. They compete, but in a way that pulls both higher. They dare each other to level up. The adventures they share are the stuff of legends. Road trips with no map, last-minute flights to a city neither has ever been, parties that somehow last until sunrise, photos full of big laughs, ridiculous poses, and stories that get more dramatic every time they're retold. They build memories so loud and colorful that people around them feel lucky just to watch. Beneath all the fireworks, there's real loyalty too. Fire signs are fiercely protective of the people they claim as theirs. If someone messes with Leo, Aries will be first in line to defend them. If Aries stumbles, Leo's the friend who lifts them up and reminds them who they are, with a pep talk worthy of a standing ovation. Their friendship is dramatic, yes, but it's also steadfast in ways people often don't see. The only true test is whether they can share the spotlight. If they're mature enough to step aside sometimes, to say, "This moment is yours, shine," they can build a bond that's almost indestructible. If not, their clashes can burn bridges as easily as they build them. But when they get it right, they prove that two stars don't have to compete, they can light up the sky together. So when you see an Aries and a Leo side by side, expect big entrances, big stories, big fights, big forgiveness, and a friendship that roars with the kind of fire most people can only handle from a safe distance. For them, that's exactly how they like it. Aries plus Virgo. At first glance, Aries thinks Virgo is a buzzkill. And honestly, Virgo often thinks Aries is a walking disaster waiting to happen, which, to be fair, isn't entirely wrong. Put these two in a room and it can look like chaos and order staging a never-ending wrestling match. Aries shows up loud, impulsive, and ready to kick down any door just to see what's on the other side. Virgo stands in the corner, arms crossed, already making a mental checklist of all the things that could go wrong, and how to fix them before Aries notices they messed up. But here's the twist. Scratch the surface, and you'll find that this mismatch is exactly why this friendship can work so beautifully, if they let it. Aries brings the heat and the reckless courage. Virgo brings the cool logic and methodical calm. One pushes, the other steadies. One dreams big and acts bigger. The other makes sure those big dreams don't crash and burn before they even get off the ground. Aries has a habit of charging into things half prepared. They'll book a spontaneous trip without checking their passport, sign a contract without reading the fine print, say yes to 3 plans happening at the same time. To Aries, that's life, messy, exciting, and always in motion. Virgo watches this with wide, worried eyes, and steps in. They'll remind Aries to slow down just long enough to double-check the details. They'll make the packing list, read the contract, cancel the extra plans so Aries doesn't burn out. This can drive Aries crazy. To them, Virgo's fussing can feel like unnecessary nagging, a cold shower on their roaring bonfire. But give it time, and even the most stubborn Aries will admit grudgingly, maybe over drinks, that Virgo's practical advice has saved them from countless messes. Virgo quietly takes pride in this, not because they want to control Aries, but because they genuinely care. Virgo's love language is service, and sometimes that means fixing the chaos their Aries friend leaves behind like a tornado. On the flip side, Virgo can get stuck in their own loop of overthinking. They plan, they analyze, they perfect, and sometimes they never actually do. This is where Aries comes crashing in like a motivational speaker hopped up on double espresso. Aries doesn't ask for permission. They drag Virgo into experiences Virgo might talk themselves out of otherwise. A spontaneous weekend getaway, a new hobby, a wild party where Virgo awkwardly stands by the snack table at first, until Aries pulls them onto the dance floor. Aries teaches Virgo that not everything has to be perfect to be worth doing. This friendship works best when both drop the idea of changing each other. Virgo has to accept that Aries will never read the entire instruction manual, and that's okay. Aries has to accept that Virgo's lists, reminders, and endless questions are not an attack, they're an act of care. Over time, Aries learns to pause and double-check because they trust Virgo's judgment. Virgo learns that sometimes you have to leap before the plan is fully formed, because life is meant to be lived, not just organized. Of course, the clashes are real. Aries' blunt honesty can rub Virgo raw. Virgos are sensitive to criticism, and Aries' filter is basically non-existent. Virgo's nitpicking can make Aries feel suffocated and judged. But when they communicate openly, they discover that neither wants to control the other, they just see the world differently. And those differences can be a secret weapon when they're on the same team. Together, they're the unstoppable duo you want if you're starting something big. Aries has the vision and guts to get it off the ground. Virgo has the patience and precision to keep it running when the initial excitement fades. If they launch a business, Aries drums up attention while Virgo handles the books. If they plan a trip, Aries picks the destination, wild and unexpected, and Virgo makes sure they actually make it there with passports, snacks, and an emergency kit for when Aries inevitably gets them lost. Over time, they might even pick up each other's best traits. Aries might start making to-do lists, not long ones, but still, it counts. Virgo might start saying yes to adventures they'd normally decline. They balance each other out in small, subtle ways that add up to real growth. What makes this friendship last is mutual respect. Aries learns to appreciate that Virgo isn't boring, they're brilliant at seeing what Aries can't. Virgo learns that Aries isn't reckless just for chaos's sake, they're brave enough to live without fear of failure. Put that together, and you have a pair that can dream wildly, plan wisely, and pull off things neither could do alone. So, while Aries may always roll their eyes at Virgo's color-coded spreadsheets, and Virgo may forever sigh at Aries' spur-of-the-moment messes, deep down, they'd both be a lot less without each other. Together, they're proof that sometimes, the wildest fires burn brightest when they have a steady hand tending them, and that even the most careful gardener needs a spark to light up their garden once in a while. Aries plus Libra. They say opposites attract, and Aries and Libra are literal opposites on the zodiac wheel. Put these two together and you'll see exactly what that means: fire meeting air, action meeting thought, impulse crashing into diplomacy. At first glance, it's a wonder they even manage to stay friends, but look closer and you'll find that the tension between them is exactly what makes this duo shine so bright. Aries is a human spark plug, direct, fearless, always ready to make the first move without caring about the consequences. Libra is the smooth breeze that calms the flames, thoughtful, graceful, and masterful at turning conflict into conversation. When Aries and Libra first cross paths, the chemistry is instant, but it might not make sense to either of them at first. Aries is probably drawn to Libra's charm, that easy, magnetic way they get people on their side without breaking a sweat. Libra, in turn, is fascinated by Aries' raw confidence, the fearless way they say exactly what they think and do exactly what they want. Libra secretly wishes they could act that boldly sometimes, and Aries secretly craves a bit of Libra's grace when their blunt honesty lands them in hot water. This friendship works because they fill in each other's gaps. Aries is the one pushing the door open, starting the project, buying the ticket. They're the sign of action, no waiting, no weighing options for days. Libra, meanwhile, takes that rush of forward motion and adds finesse. They smooth the edges, charm the right people, and make sure nobody's feelings get trampled along the way. Aries makes things happen. Libra makes sure everyone still wants to be part of it afterward. Of course, these differences also create friction. Aries' impulsive nature can drive Libra a little crazy. To Libra, every decision is an opportunity to weigh pros and cons, to ask, what's fair? What's best for everyone? Aries hears that and thinks, who cares? Let's just go. More than once, Aries will drag Libra into a situation that feels messy, unplanned, or just too loud, and Libra might sigh, roll their eyes, and spend the next hour playing peacemaker when Aries inevitably offends someone with a too honest comment. But Libra isn't a pushover. Under that polite smile is a backbone made of steel, one that Aries secretly respects. Libra knows how to say no without starting a war, how to stand firm without raising their voice. When Aries gets too bullish, Libra reminds them that sometimes you get more with honey than with fire. And when Libra gets stuck in endless indecision, trapped in their own mind, paralyzed by wanting to please everyone, Aries storms in to break the loop. Pick one, go, do it, and suddenly, Libra remembers that sometimes choosing something is better than choosing nothing. There's a sweetness to how they care for each other, too. Aries pushes Libra to take risks they'd otherwise talk themselves out of, signing up for that class, applying for that job, going on that adventure. Libra, in return, gently teaches Aries how to pause, listen, and consider how their actions ripple out to others. If Aries wants to start the party, Libra knows how to keep it going long enough for everyone to feel welcome. Their fights, when they happen, can be dramatic but surprisingly short-lived. Aries might snap in the moment, they hate dancing around an issue, while Libra wants to talk it through calmly, maybe with 3 cups of tea and an apology drafted in their notes app. If Aries learns not to bulldoze Libra's need for peace and Libra learns not to sugarcoat every truth, they'll figure out a rhythm that keeps the friendship strong without anyone feeling steamrolled. When these two really click, they're a social powerhouse. Together, they're the friends everyone wants at the party. Aries brings the fun and fearless vibe, Libra brings the effortless charm that keeps things from spiraling into chaos. They balance each other so naturally that other people often wonder how they make it look so easy, not realizing that underneath the good times is a constant dance of give and take, push and pull. Libra's love for beauty and harmony can even rub off on Aries in unexpected ways. Maybe the impulsive ram starts dressing a little sharper, learning the art of saying things with more tact, or appreciating how good it feels to actually pause and enjoy the moment instead of rushing to the next. Aries, meanwhile, teaches Libra that mess and imperfection aren't always bad. Sometimes they're where life's best adventures live. Together, they can dream up plans that are both daring and doable. Aries provides the bold vision and unstoppable drive. Libra brings the people skills, the aesthetics, the strategy to turn wild ideas into real experiences everyone wants to be part of. If they decide to travel together, expect a perfectly planned itinerary sprinkled with impulsive detours that lead to the best stories later. If they team up on a project, Aries makes sure it actually starts, and Libra makes sure it actually finishes, looking beautiful and leaving everyone happy. In the end, Aries and Libra remind us that real balance isn't about being the same, it's about being different in ways that make each other better. Aries teaches Libra to leap. Libra teaches Aries to land without breaking anything. And somewhere in the middle, they discover that opposites don't just attract, they transform. When they get it right, they're not just a good pair, they're a reminder that harmony and heat can coexist, turning everyday life into something both exciting and beautifully in sync. Aries plus Scorpio. This pair is intense. There's really no other word for it, and if you've ever watched an Aries and a Scorpio circle each other, you know exactly what that means. On the surface, they couldn't look more different. Aries comes in loud, bold, direct, the spark that lights the room on fire in seconds. Scorpio lurks in the shadows just long enough to figure out who's real and who's faking it, then strikes when they're sure it's worth it. Both are ruled by Mars, which explains the raw force they share, but Scorpio also has Pluto in its corner, that dark, smoldering planet of transformation, secrets, and power plays. Together, they're a storm front you don't want to cross. When an Aries and a Scorpio decide to be friends, people notice. There's a certain edge when they stand side by side, like two warriors who could fight each other to the death one minute, then fight for each other the next. Aries respects Scorpio's depth, even if they don't always understand it. Scorpio respects Aries' fearlessness, even if they find it reckless sometimes. And at the core, they both despise weakness, not mistakes, not softness, but betrayal, cowardice, disloyalty. They have a zero-tolerance policy for fake people, lies, or broken promises. When they click, they're unstoppable. Aries brings the upfront courage to say and do what everyone else is too afraid to try. Scorpio brings the strategy, the quiet intensity that sees what others miss and holds it like a hidden weapon. If they're plotting something together, a project, an event, even just a prank, expect it to be bold, secretive, and flawlessly executed. They'd rather go big or not at all. Neither half measures nor lukewarm loyalty live here. But all that raw energy comes with a catch: power struggles. This is one friendship where dominance is a silent, constant tug of war. Aries doesn't want to be controlled, ever. They want to lead, to charge in headfirst, to own every moment. Scorpio, meanwhile, doesn't want to be led blindly. They need to know they're not being played, manipulated, or made a fool of. They'll test Aries' loyalty in subtle ways, pushing buttons to see if the bond is real or just fun until it's inconvenient. Trust is everything here, and it doesn't come easily. Aries might find Scorpio's secrecy frustrating. Why can't you just say what you're thinking? They'll demand. But Scorpio knows that words have power, and they don't waste them on people who haven't earned it. Aries, meanwhile, might let slip a secret in a heated moment, a mistake Scorpio won't forgive twice. One betrayal, one crack in the armor, and that fierce loyalty flips into scorched earth revenge. If Aries learns anything in this friendship, it's this: never lie to a Scorpio. Ever. But when that trust is honored, when they know they're safe with each other, it's electric. Aries finds a confidant in Scorpio they didn't expect. Someone who doesn't flinch at their worst days, who can handle the fire and match it with water so deep it can drown every doubt. Scorpio, in turn, finds a friend who reminds them life doesn't have to be all shadow work and hidden motives. Aries pulls Scorpio out of their depths sometimes, drags them into spontaneous nights out, reckless confessions, adventures that force Scorpio to loosen their white-knuckled grip on control. They push each other, sometimes too far, but it's never boring. Fights can be volcanic. Loud, brutal, the kind that scorches the earth before it heals. But oddly, that's part of the bond too. Neither fears conflict. Both respect honesty, even when it's ugly. They'll shout, storm off, cool down, and come back stronger, unless the line is crossed. If you lie, if you betray, if you break what's sacred, that's when the trust burns to ash, and forgiveness is not on the menu. Outside eyes often find this friendship intimidating. They give off an unspoken warning, don't mess with either of us. If Aries has your back, you know they'll throw the first punch for you, literally, if needed. If Scorpio's in your corner, they'll know your secrets before you do, and they'll protect them like a vault, or weaponize them if you break faith. It's loyalty that feels a bit dangerous, because it is. Yet there's a strange tenderness here too, hidden beneath the armor. Scorpio can hold space for Aries' buried fears, the moments the fearless ram won't show anyone else. Aries, meanwhile, reminds Scorpio they don't have to live in suspicion forever. That some people really are worth trusting, worth opening up to, worth protecting not out of fear but love. When they get it right, Aries and Scorpio become an unbreakable force. A wild mix of passion, loyalty, and fearlessness that can bulldoze obstacles and leave an impression wherever they go. They won't look or feel like your average pair of best friends. They'll be more like a secret alliance, a power pact sealed by fire and shadow. And if you're lucky enough to be loved by them, you'll never have to wonder whose side they're on. So yes, this pair is intense, but for them, anything less would be a waste of the fire they both carry inside. Just keep your promises, and remember, never lie to a Scorpio. Ever. Aries plus Sagittarius. Here's where the fun never ends. If you've ever seen two wild horses running side by side with no fence in sight, that's Aries and Sagittarius in friendship form. These two signs don't just dislike limits, they actively destroy them. Rules? Boring. Comfort zones? Suffocating. Together, they create a friendship built entirely on freedom, adventure, and the kind of belly laughs that leave you gasping for breath at 3 a.m. From the first moment they meet, there's an instant spark, not just attraction, but recognition. Aries sees Sagittarius's restless spirit and thinks, finally, someone who doesn't flinch when I say, let's go right now. Sagittarius, in turn, sees Aries' boundless energy and feels a thrill, finally, someone who can keep up. No permission slips, no second guessing. If it sounds fun, they're doing it. Road trips that start at midnight because they got bored and had a half tank of gas. Spontaneous plane tickets booked on a whim because they found cheap flights and didn't want to wait. Hiking to random waterfalls, dancing until sunrise. They're the pair who says yes before the question is even finished. If you're in their circle, you'd better be ready to move, or at least be ready to hear their wild stories afterward. Philosophy might not be the first word people think of for Aries, but Sagittarius brings it out. Sagittarius is the sign of the seeker, the big thinker who wants to understand the world and all its possibilities. They're the friend who'll corner Aries at 2 a.m. with a deep question about the meaning of life, the universe, or whether free will is real. Aries listens, for a bit, and then says, cool. Let's find out. Want to try it? Suddenly that philosophical debate turns into an actual adventure, because for these two, ideas are meant to be tested in the real world, not just talked about. What keeps this friendship alive is how beautifully they fuel each other's optimism. Neither sign stays down for long. If Aries crashes after a failure, Sagittarius is there with a joke and a new plan. If Sagittarius starts doubting whether their next crazy scheme will work, Aries is already packing a bag saying, who cares? Let's try it anyway. They remind each other that life is short and curiosity is worth more than safety. Of course, the same things that make this friendship electric can cause problems too. Responsibility is not exactly their favorite word. Bills, deadlines, adult obligations, these things exist, but both would rather pretend they don't until absolutely necessary. Aries might push things off until the last second because they hate being pinned down. Sagittarius might vanish mid-plan because they got a better offer, not out of malice, but because the grass always looks greener just over the next hill. If they don't check themselves, this duo can become the poster children for unfinished plans. Grand ideas, half-packed bags, impulsive projects started at 2 a.m. that fizzle out by breakfast. But strangely enough, neither really holds it against the other. They get it. They'd rather live life big and messy than small and predictable, and they're usually too busy chasing the next spark to dwell on what fell apart. What's rare about this friendship is that there's no jealousy, no hidden power struggles, no resentment about who's in charge. Aries loves leading, Sagittarius doesn't mind, they're too busy looking at the horizon. When they disagree, it's rarely about control, it's about which wild plan is wilder. Fights are short, mostly because neither stays angry long. There's always another road to ride, another adventure to plan. Who has time to sulk? There's also a deep trust here, even if it doesn't look like the careful loyalty of other signs. It's an unspoken agreement. I won't cage you in. You won't cage me in. And when we meet again, it's as if no time has passed. Aries loves that Sagittarius doesn't cling or guilt trip. Sagittarius loves that Aries doesn't try to tame their wanderlust. They just want to run free together, and they do, again and again. Over the years, they'll collect stories like postcards. The time they got lost in a city with no maps, the festival they stumbled into by accident, the strangers who became best friends for a night. They might drift apart for months, even years, but when they reconnect, it's like nothing changed. Because this friendship isn't about constant contact, it's about knowing that when the call comes, want to go? The answer is still yes. In the end, this is one of Aries' best matches for lifelong friendship, not because it's stable or careful, but because it refuses to be. These two remind each other that the world is huge and meant to be explored, that laughter is worth more than caution, that life's too short to wait for permission. They push each other to live bigger, dream wilder, and say yes more often than no. So when you see an Aries and a Sagittarius taking off together, on a road, a plane, or just another weird idea, don't bother asking when they'll be back. They probably don't know, and they wouldn't have it any other way. Aries plus Capricorn. Discipline meets rebellion. That's the simplest way to describe the unlikely magic that happens when Aries and Capricorn decide to call each other friends. On the surface, they look like total opposites, and in many ways, they are. Aries is a wildfire. Reckless, bold, fueled by impulse and a daredevil's grin. Capricorn is the mountain itself. Steady, unshakable, and deeply suspicious of anything that sounds too good to be true without a plan to back it up. Aries sees a mountain and charges up it with zero gear, zero research, and zero patience. They're halfway up before Capricorn has even finished reading the trail map. Capricorn, meanwhile, sees that same mountain, pulls out a notebook, makes a checklist, budgets snacks, double-checks the weather forecast, and calculates the safest route. Aries thinks this is boring. Capricorn thinks Aries is nuts. And they're both right, and completely fascinated by each other because of it. When they first become friends, it can feel like a constant clash of wills. Aries pushes, pokes, and tests. They want to see how far they can bend the rules, and if they snap, well, that's part of the thrill. Capricorn, meanwhile, wants results. They value hard work, discipline, and building something that actually lasts. Aries can't stand waiting. Capricorn can't stand messes that come from rushing. And yet, under the surface of these differences, there's an unlikely respect. Aries secretly admires how Capricorn stands their ground, the way they don't get rattled by chaos but instead quietly tame it. Capricorn, though they'll never admit it out loud at first, admires how Aries leaps where others hesitate, how they make bold moves while everyone else is still asking for permission. In a friendship, this push and pull becomes their greatest strength, if they let it. Aries lights a fire under Capricorn when they get stuck playing it too safe for too long. That big dream Capricorn has shelved for someday, Aries is the friend who slams the file drawer open and says, "Why not now?" Capricorn, in turn, reins Aries in just enough to keep them from burning out or crashing headfirst into failure they could have easily avoided. Capricorn won't stop Aries from climbing the mountain, they'll just make sure Aries doesn't freeze to death halfway up because they forgot a coat. Together, they're oddly unstoppable. Give them a shared goal, starting a business, planning a big trip, building something real, and you get the perfect mix of bold vision and bulletproof execution. Aries kicks it off, Capricorn finishes it strong. Aries is the spark, Capricorn is the structure that turns that spark into something that actually lasts longer than a weekend fling with an idea. But let's be real, this balance doesn't come easy. Stubbornness is baked into both signs. Aries hates being told what to do. Capricorn hates chaos messing with their carefully laid plans. They will butt heads. Aries might roll their eyes when Capricorn says, "Maybe wait," before jumping in. Capricorn might sigh when Aries ignores advice and barrels ahead anyway. They'll clash over timelines, methods, who's in charge, and they'll probably never fully agree on any of it. What saves them is that underneath the frustration is genuine respect. Aries might tease Capricorn for being the buzzkill, but they also know that when Capricorn gives advice, it's worth hearing. Capricorn might mutter that Aries is reckless, but they'll brag later about how gutsy their friend is, even if they'd never admit it to Aries' face. There's also an unexpected warmth that grows here. Capricorn is more loyal than they let on. Once they trust you, they're solid as a rock. Aries is fiercely protective. If they consider you their friend, they'll fight tooth and nail for you. Together, they become each other's safety net. Aries teaches Capricorn how to breathe a little, live a little, and remember that sometimes you have to leap before you feel ready. Capricorn reminds Aries that success feels even better when you stick with something long enough to watch it grow roots. People around them might not get how they work. On the outside, it can look like constant friction, arguments over dinner plans, heated debates about what to do next. But to them, it's the sparks that keep the fire alive. They learn that their extremes don't cancel each other out, they round each other out. The best part? This friendship doesn't fizzle when the adrenaline fades. Aries may burn hot and fast, but Capricorn gives them an anchor, proof that not every fire has to die quickly. Capricorn may plan for the long game, but Aries keeps them from planning life so tightly that they forget to actually live it. So, discipline meets rebellion. The mountain meets the climber. When Aries and Capricorn choose to respect each other's strengths instead of fighting them, they build something bigger than either could alone. A bond forged by friction, strengthened by loyalty, and fueled by a shared belief that no dream is too high, as long as you've got a plan and the guts to climb. Aries plus Aquarius. These two are the rebels of the zodiac, each in their own way. Put an Aries and an Aquarius in the same orbit, and the universe perks up, ready for sparks, stunts, and social revolutions no one else saw coming. Aries breaks rules just for the thrill of it, to see what happens when you flip the script, push the boundary, jump the fence that says do not enter. Aquarius, though? Aquarius breaks rules because the old ones are outdated, and they're already 3 steps ahead, reimagining how the world should be instead. When they meet, it's like two conspirators recognizing each other across a crowded room. There's an instant click, an unspoken promise that whatever normal looks like for everyone else, it won't hold them here. Aries feels understood by Aquarius's open mind, that rare ability to listen without judgment when Aries blurts out a wild plan. Aquarius loves Aries's fire, that spark that takes ideas from the mental drawing board straight into action before doubt has time to creep in. These two make chaos look like art. One week, they're hatching a plan to road trip to a music festival on zero sleep. The next, they're knee-deep in some group project no one asked for, organizing a protest, launching a weird but brilliant side hustle, or staying up all night brainstorming how to fix something everyone else accepts as just the way it is. It works because they fan each other's flames without trying to control the spark. Aries hates to be caged in, Aquarius wouldn't dare. Aquarius needs freedom to drift through their endless theories and ideas. Aries respects that drift because they're too busy chasing their own thrills to suffocate anyone. They're allergic to clinginess. They give each other space, then reconnect like magnets. Every conversation feels like picking up where the last one left off, no matter how much time has passed. When they argue, it's rarely over petty stuff. Aries might get frustrated with Aquarius's tendency to overthink instead of do. Aquarius might roll their eyes when Aries leaps without looking, again. But underneath any snark is deep respect. Aries knows Aquarius sees the bigger picture, and Aquarius knows Aries has the guts to bring ideas to life. Together, they're unstoppable precisely because they don't want to control each other, they want to ignite each other. Friendship for them looks like endless brainstorming sessions. It's spontaneous road trips, weird conspiracy debates at 4 a.m., collective what-ifs that turn into why-nots. It's that exhilarating sense that they could reinvent the world, or at least their corner of it, if they just had a few more hours and maybe an extra cup of coffee. They're trendsetters, too, even if they don't mean to be. Aries is too busy blazing forward to notice people are watching. Aquarius doesn't care about fitting in, which ironically makes them the person everyone wants to imitate. Together, they're the pair starting some micro-movement their whole friend group side-eyes, until, months later, everyone's copying it. Under all that spark and brainstorm, there's real loyalty, just not the sticky, possessive kind. If Aries hits a wall, Aquarius is there to help them break through it with a weirdly genius solution. If Aquarius's big ideas stall out because reality gets in the way, Aries grabs their hand and drags them right past the barriers, shouting, "Let's just try it." They teach each other lessons without even trying. Aries shows Aquarius that not every fight for change needs to be perfectly planned. Sometimes you win by showing up and stirring things up first. Aquarius shows Aries that sometimes the wildest idea gets better when you think through the consequences before you light the fuse. What really makes them work is that they never feel trapped. Aries can vanish for days chasing the next adventure. Aquarius can disappear down a rabbit hole of research or creative obsession. When they meet again, there's no guilt trip, just excitement to share what they found. They thrive on independence and the thrill of coming back together to dream bigger than they ever would alone. To outsiders, they can look reckless or unrealistic. But watch closely and you'll see they're the ones quietly or loudly shifting the conversation, challenging stale ideas, poking holes in limitations, reminding everyone that freedom isn't a reckless luxury. It's fuel for better ideas and a bigger life. If you see an Aries and an Aquarius hanging out, don't expect anything normal to come from it. Expect sparks, bold plans, loud laughter, and maybe a mild scandal. Expect ideas that make you blink and wonder, could that actually work? Then expect them to try it anyway, fail, laugh about it, and try something even bigger next time. When you get to the core of Aries and Aquarius, it's simple. They're co-conspirators in a lifelong experiment to see just how far they can push life before it pushes back. And 9 times out of 10, they'll push harder, together. If you get invited along for the ride, buckle up. Aries plus Pisces. Fire meets dream. When Aries and Pisces find each other, it's the start of a friendship that looks impossible on paper, but in real life, it's magic in motion, if they're willing to meet each other halfway. Aries storms through life like a hero in an action movie, all sparks and momentum, always ready to fight the next battle or chase the next thrill. Pisces, meanwhile, drifts through the world like a poet who woke up from a half-remembered dream and decided to paint it on the ceiling. At first glance, Aries might roll their eyes at Pisces' softness. To Aries, Pisces can seem passive, too easily lost in their own thoughts, too quick to drift off into some daydream about what could be instead of grabbing life by the horns like Aries does every single day. But if Aries sticks around long enough, they'll find that Pisces has a quiet strength that doesn't need to shout to be real. Pisces admires Aries' boldness, the way Aries stands up, speaks out, and never apologizes for wanting more. To gentle Pisces, this kind of courage is like a spark in a dark room. It teaches them they don't always have to fold themselves small to keep the peace. With Aries by their side, Pisces learns it's okay to say no, to take up space, to protect their tender heart with a little fire of their own. For Aries, Pisces brings something they rarely find anywhere else: softness without strings attached. Pisces reminds Aries that not every fight needs fists, that sometimes the bravest thing is to listen, really listen, and feel something all the way through instead of running from it. Pisces shows Aries how to slow down, how to see the beauty in quiet moments, how to stand still long enough to watch the stars instead of chasing the next sunrise. They're opposites in so many ways that misunderstandings are guaranteed. Aries is blunt by default. If they think it, they say it. Pisces, meanwhile, feels everything 10 layers deep. A careless comment from Aries can cut Pisces without Aries even noticing. Pisces might retreat into silence instead of speaking up, which only confuses Aries more. The trick is learning to read each other's signals, for Aries to soften their words when it matters, and for Pisces to speak up before resentment builds like an invisible tide. When they get it right, this pair is like a hero and an artist on an endless adventure. Aries will drag Pisces into wild, unscripted nights, concerts, road trips, spontaneous plans that start with, "Why not?" and end with blurry phone photos and inside jokes no one else understands. Pisces, in return, invites Aries into a softer world. Late night talks about dreams and fears, lazy afternoons painting or reading in the sun, reminding Aries that life isn't just about conquering but about feeling, too. Their friendship is full of stories, both the kind they live and the kind they imagine together. Pisces might spin a wild idea about moving to a cabin by the sea, and Aries might say, "Let's go tomorrow," half serious, half not. But that spark keeps Pisces' dream alive and reminds Aries that not every plan needs to make perfect sense to be worth chasing. Sometimes, they'll frustrate each other. Aries can't stand indecision and will push Pisces to choose faster, stand taller, shout louder. Pisces, in turn, can get overwhelmed by Aries' constant fire and need time alone to recharge in their own quiet waters. The balance is in the dance. Aries learning patience, Pisces learning boundaries. Aries realizing that tenderness isn't weakness. Pisces realizing that bravery isn't just for warriors in armor but for dreamers with open hearts too. What makes this friendship special is how they hold space for each other's extremes. Aries guards Pisces fiercely. They won't let anyone take advantage of their gentle friend's kindness. Pisces soothes Aries' rough edges. They're the calm after Aries' storm, the soft landing after the leap. Together, they remind each other that a life worth living is both a quest and a poem. To everyone else, they might look mismatched. The warrior and the mystic, the fire and the mist. But they're a perfect yin-yang if they trust what they bring to each other's world. They balance boldness with softness, action with wonder, restlessness with deep reflection. They teach each other that courage and compassion aren't opposites, they're partners in the same story. So when you see an Aries and a Pisces together, you'll see adventure and quiet magic stitched into the same day. They'll be running wild through city streets one moment, curled up under fairy lights the next, dreaming up 1,000 futures they might just chase for real. In the end, fire meets dream, and both are better for it. So, do you see yourself and your Aries friend somewhere in these stars? Maybe you recognize the sparks, that restless, unstoppable fire that lights up every plan, every dare, every random Tuesday night that somehow turns into a legendary memory. Maybe you're the steady hand that keeps your Aries from leaping before they look, or maybe you're the one holding their jacket while they jump anyway. Maybe you're the quiet dreamer they drag into the wild, or the calm mind that helps them turn chaos into something real. Maybe you're the one who laughs the loudest when they show up at your door with a half-baked idea that somehow always works out, just because they believe it will. Maybe you're the anchor they never admit they need, the friend who answers the call at midnight, no matter how reckless the plan sounds. Or maybe you're the spark in their corner, pushing them to live bigger, burn brighter, and never shrink down to fit the world's rules. Aries has a way of making you feel braver just by being around them. And if you're lucky enough to stand in that flame without fear, you know exactly how rare that is. But here's the secret, the part the birth charts and compatibility blogs don't always tell you. Astrology can map out the tendencies, the clashes, the sparks and the soft spots. But it can't live your story for you. It can't choose whether you stay when it gets hard, or speak up when you'd rather swallow the truth, or listen when your friend's heart says, "Please don't push me right now." It can't choose whether you love your Aries enough to match their fire with your own version of loyalty, steady or chaotic, wild or gentle, but real enough to hold up when life tests you both. Because in the end, the stars light the way, but you choose the path. You decide whether you'll take what makes you different and let it drive you apart, or whether you'll see it as the secret ingredient that makes your friendship unbreakable. Fire signs teach us that life is too short to play small. Aries reminds us that courage is contagious. They remind us to jump first and trust that the ground will catch us, or that we'll build our wings on the way down. So if you found a piece of yourself in these stories, in the roaring adventures, the midnight pep talks, the brutal honesty and the loyal fists ready to swing for you, honor it. Keep it alive, laugh too loud, plan too big, forgive fast and love harder than your fear wants you to. That's how you hold on to an Aries, not by taming the fire, but by learning how to stand in its warmth without flinching. And if you felt seen by this little cosmic deep dive, don't let the journey stop here. Hit that like button, because why not cheer for more stories like this? Subscribe so you never miss the next sign we unpack and the next secret we share. Watch our other videos, compare your cosmic notes, send one to your Aries friend and see if they roll their eyes or laugh out loud. Both mean they love you. And before you go, remember, the stars only whisper. You write the ending. So go write it. We'll see you under the next constellation.